The Office of the Parliament celebrates International Women's Day 2022. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow.
Gender equality is fundamental to the people in Trinidad and Tobago and all around the world. This is something that came through the struggles of the women's rights movement, the feminist movement, and the broader liberation movements that even brought us to independence in some of the former colonies that once existed up until the 20th century. So gender equality is a priority because it permeates all sectors of society. When we think about education, women being educated might seem as something that's taken for granted now, but that was fought for. When we have St. Francois Girls' College, that was a proposal for decades to have an all-girls school that is important in our society. Because when colonial powers invented education, it was oftentimes for young men to be trained for their economic purposes. So gender equality is a priority in our society, in education, in the economy, in political leadership. And that is why it's very important for us to celebrate International Women's Day. Not just look around and give thanks to our mothers, our sisters, our cousins, the drivers, the women selling face masks on the street in front of our no vending sign. That is very important too, to big up, but it's to look at their contribution to the economy, their contribution to nurturing and care, which sustains the households to produce more workers as well, but to also give us psycho and social satisfaction to be complete human beings. Supporting gender equality from the side of men is important because men need to think of themselves not just as an individual man, but the ideologies, these beliefs in society that give men power. And these beliefs are supported by institutions which carry out these ideas that men are more powerful than women. So even though an individual man, especially young men, mightn't believe in that today, they need to say, I have a responsibility as a member of a social group called men, a historical duty to challenge male privilege. One of the themes we have for this year is called Break the Bias. And in breaking the bias, we need to think about those ideas which mean that women will always be inferior, that women will be less than, or they have to work twice as hard to get the same thing as men have. International Women's Day provides an opportunity for us to reflect on our social responsibility, duty, and commitment to the whole world, but of course to women. And in doing that, we become better human beings ourselves. Sometimes I think about gender equality and what is new and old. And being in my 30s, I've had the opportunity to be in that sandwich of being a little bit older to the younger leaders right now, and then I was the young person where the more mature part of the leadership would be. In our youth, we sometimes think we have new issues of our time, but oftentimes we may have new technologies to very old forms of oppression that have existed. So it's important for young lions and lionesses to think that they are continuing a struggle that already existed. Revenge pornography, which is a problem of our time. Yes, that is part of the social shame and the misogyny and the way of using a woman's body to promote violence against her. That's a problem we've had throughout all time. But with the technology, it has a certain type of resonance in this form. And for the older heads who sometimes feel that they might be out of touch with the articulation, the vocabulary, even the angst of some of the young people. Remember where you were 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, and issues of gender-based violence are still relevant. Even though we have seen a reduction in terms of the way that women would cite violence in the household because of cooking responsibilities, that is still a problem. If it exists, it's still too much. So we have to have all of us involved in this project. What will be perceived as new and old, but oppression really doesn't have an age. Can equality be achieved? The reason why we always have to say yes, we don't want people to jump off that ship. That's just me being joking. And some days we get cynical because we get hurt. I'm sorry if I'm taking the opportunity to answer it more personally. I believe equality can be achieved because that is my aspiration. Gender equality for movements and for the institutions supported by movements is the goal. We have gender transformative actions, projects, programs to achieve that goal in time. But when we have people with power who have unfair hiring practices, it hurts. When we read the newspapers or receive a WhatsApp of someone we love and care about become victims to sexual assault and violence, we get hurt. And the message we have to keep for ourselves is that we must still have hope. So pain and suffering must never have the last words on our struggle and movement for more justice. I believe in everyone's hearts they want gender equality. Sadly, we need to talk to people and let them know what is in it for them. But gender equality is something for you, yes, but it's also for the benefit of all. And sometimes the we is always superior than the I. I know we're in an age where there's an I that needs to be affirmed and assured. But there's a we, and how do we create a society where the we matters and gender equality is central to that we? On social media with young people, that is a domain where we have the reproduction of social relations. Now that is a very sophisticated way to say that we bring our whole selves from Bagatelle to Las Lomas, Forward Stamina, Lavantil, Caroni, onto the digital media space. This idea that there's what happens in Vegas, it stays on YouTube now. That is the environment we are in. And with the pandemic, with how diffuse technology was because we needed it to communicate, to have our social bonds, but also to be part of formal processes, we experience a form of social life online much more than we did in the past. And in fact, every year that changes. So we need to create legislation to have policy frameworks as well as projects which ensure that people's rights are guaranteed in the online space. Part of it, which is the government's move to address issues such as cyberbullying and revenge pornography, is important. Our next part is digital literacy to make sure that we are all equal citizens. Another part is a regulatory framework that ensures security, rights to information, and thinking about the safety of spaces. And one part is about your information, like your banking and so on. And the next part is the attacks on your person. This is a global issue. Never believe that this is an issue Trinidad and Tobago is trying to work out alone. But we need to empower our people, especially the young people who have a proclivity to use their fingers a lot, to ensure that when we are on social media, it's not a place that we could hide or run away from the implications in society to say very mean things, very harmful things, and things that really are steeped in inequalities. We could take that opportunity to be a place that is much more liberating, much more teaching and emancipatory, and that will take some time, but I believe we have the capacity and leadership in our country to do that. One of my messages would be for the men on International Women's Day, not to supplant the message women are promoting, but to communicate to men about their investment in this day, would be you don't need to be masculine to have a voice. This idea that you are robbed of your manhood and therefore you have no contribution into society. We need to restore humanity into men. Let men understand the human role in this society, in their family. As human beings, what can a contribution be like? Because sometimes the definitions and models of masculinity and manhood we receive make us do inhumane things, make us participate less, and make us be less caring. So we could expand and transform those definitions of manhood we may have inherited, but as well as always keep our eyes on being human, just, and responsible, committed, and therefore thinking about the rights of women is very important to that, where we'll have a healthier society.
The Office of the Parliament celebrates International Women's Day 2022. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow.